this is Everyday Expertise, and I'm Angela. And I'm here today with Gadget Gears. She is a costumer, designer, artist, performer, and renowned cosplayer. Hello!
Hello.
So, how did you get started in costuming and cosplay?
Well, in about 2017, I was, I guess, indebted to a troupe here in Utah. And I had enlisted some help from a very well renowned seamstress. Her name is Garnet Runestar. And we were friends. Well, we became friends. And what happened is I needed help with the costume and I didn't know how to do it. I couldn't sew to save my life. And she did this costume for me. And I felt so indebted to her that I asked how I could repay her. And she said, well, you're a makeup artist and we kind of need a makeup artist for our group. So guess you're it. And so I was with that troupe for about 3 or 4 years, and then kind of made my breakout scene with a cosplay from Avatar: The Last Airbender. So
Mm.
that's my story.
So, where did the name Gadget Gears come from?
My nickname Gadget Gears came from Broadway.
Mhm.
I was on the national tour of Wicked. I was with the Munchkin Land tour. And when you become one of the crew, I was with the Backstage Pirates at the time. And when you become one of their family members, they re-nickname you. And so I got the name Gadget, and it's after the rescue ranger, not the inspector.
Mhm.
And it kind of just stuck. I really liked it. It was endearing to me. I'd never had a nickname before, and I kept it because it had a lot of good memories to me.
That's pretty cool.
Hmm.
What differences do you find, if any, there are between stage costuming and cosplay?
So stage costumes are definitely meant for an effect. For instance, in Wicked, Glinda has 3 bubble dresses, at
Mm.
least on the tour when I was with her. She had one bubble dress for descending in her bubble. It was for safety so that she was strapped to the back of her bubble. And then there was the one that she could walk around and be beautiful in. And then there was her quick change one. So they each had a specific need. Versus cosplay, you kind of live in your costume for an entire convention. There's a lot of love that goes into both of them. There's just different techniques that I find, training. And then, like I said, it's really a cosplay for me is something that you're going to live in for a little bit. Versus a costume on Broadway, they only have to be in it for a couple of scenes and then it just kind of comes off. So,
Hmm.
mhm.
That's kind of cool. Yeah. Um, what about cosplay appeals to you as an artistic medium?
So, my favorite saying is clothes make a statement, costumes tell a story. And
Mhm.
so for me, I absolutely love the ability to take a 2D rendering and turn it into a 3D living, breathing entity. And that's my favorite thing because a lot of cosplay defies gravity, logic, general things that fabric doesn't do. And so I love the challenge of trying to figure out how to make it do something extraordinary.
That's pretty awesome. And I think that's pretty awesome. Yeah, as an idea of yeah, the your costume, your cosplay, it tells a story
Mhm.
often, and then you have like in like masquerades and stuff, people do whole skits, right? They're
Yep.
really acting out character moments and things like this.
No, it's very interesting. My favorite thing about cosplay is so like on stage you have the fourth wall. Well, as a
Mm.
cosplayer, you don't have that. You have people that interact with you on the con floor, just in a day-to-day basis. So you don't have that fourth wall protecting you in a way. You have to be either really sold on being that character, or you just have to be prepared for some really odd questions that will be posed to you.
Mm. Do you have any major influences?
A lot of my biggest influence is actually historical costuming. I did historical reenactment. Here in the United States, we have Civil War reenactment from the Great
Mhm.
War, and I was enlisted in the Texas Unit I, the Fourth Texas Unit I. I have to remember what troop I was in. I was under the guise of James Allen. They called me Jimmy. Um,
Mhm.
dimsy if they were drunk out of their mind. Um, and I did a lot of historical sewing. I actually started by doing a lot of hand sewing. And so,
Mm.
hand sewing, anytime there's a historical aspect about a costume, I'm all over it. I like to kind of find rhyme and reason to these costumes and find something that roots it in this world so that it's a little bit more believable.
Mm.
Hmm.
That's pretty cool.
Thank you.
So this show is very much about process.
Okay.
Can you describe your process of making a cosplay outfit from, say, idea to finished product?
Okay, so conception for me is definitely asking the question, what inspires it? So, like for instance, like I've done Rurouni Kenshin, I've done Celeste from Final Fantasy VI, I've done a lot of characters that were, or like Undertaker from Kuroshitsuji, where they were inspired by historical aspects. Or I have ones that are inspired by a fabric, like Shaoran and Sakura from Cardcaptor Sakura. And so I kind of look at what inspires me for in the first place. I learned from my tour on Warhorse that a lot of times the smallest little thing became the biggest inspiration for the production. And so I'm also very mindful of when I create these cosplays of things that make it mine. My first question that I ask when I do a cosplay is, how am I going to pee in this? It's a costume. It's a question that I don't feel like enough people ask. I'm working on a Full Metal Alchemist, Edward Elric, and I'm actually doing the auto mail for his hand. And somebody asked me, they're like, "What's the end goal for this?" And I was like, "To be able to zip up my own pants when I go to the bathroom." And I know it sounds really dorky, but this is an important thing to ask. I worked on a show where they didn't ask that question, and these actors were in spandex bodysuits that were hooked up to a lot of voltage. They had EL wire and LEDs on them, and they didn't ask that question. And these poor actors had to strip completely naked to go to the bathroom, and it was a process. And so after that, I learned, okay, we need to ask, okay, how long am I going to be standing in this? How long, like, can I get food out of this? Kind of more the practical things about it. How am I going to make this costume live? And then the next thing that I do is I go into the construction of it. How am I constructing this inspired costume into something that's going to live and breathe in the physical world? So I draft my own patterns. I do a lot of draping, and I kind of just figure out what I want it to do, whether it's for a specific effect, or if it's for the stage, or if it's for like a something that's going to see the con floor a lot. Depending on what that is, dictates what kind of like construction goes into it. And so I like to make sure that the costumes are well fitted. I'm really a stickler for fit. And I just 10 minutes worth of pressing, opening your seams, making sure that it's not wrinkly, things like that will make a costume be good to amazing. And then after that, I kind of look into, okay, how am I going to preserve this costume? On Broadway, we have to make sure that these costumes live forever, pretty much. And so I do a lot of tricks from Broadway. For instance, we use what's called vodka spray or costume spray, and it's like 2 parts water, 1 part nasty vodka. I mean, you want cheap nasty vodka so nobody drinks it. And you put it in a spray bottle and you spray down these costumes that can't see a washing machine.
Mm.
Phantom of had a lot of those, these heavily beaded costumes that will never see a washing machine. But these actors stink, and you wander around and you get sweaty on stage on a con floor. So you have to be able to be prepared to take care of your costume, because hopefully you want this costume to live to see another con. And so that's kind of what it is. And then my last process is character. So you made it. Now you got to sell it. And I'm a trained opera singer. Actually, I went to school for that. I'm a dramatic mezzo soprano. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, I've always had the philosophy of playing to the cheap seats, meaning you have to be larger than that stage is. So if your stage is big, your poses, your gestures better be bigger than life. And you got to sell it. I have so many people who tell me they remember my costume, not because of how well it was built, but because of how I sold it to them. So that's kind of my process. Long story short.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Thank you.
So, you also appear as a speaker at conventions and you do workshops sometimes. How did you start doing that?
Um, Gosh, I have World Cosplay Summit to thank for that. In 2017, actually 10 years after I first started cosplaying, I got to represent the United States with my partner on the World Cosplay Summit in Nagoya, Japan. And because of that, I had a lot of contacts that I made from around the world, a lot of networking. And I like to approach conventions. Sometimes they approach me though. And it's a job. It's a
Mm.
definite job. So I have a resume, I have my portfolio, and I kind of have to audition in those aspects. So like for instance, I was just in Montreal, which was amazing.
Mhm.
And I it was because of World Cosplay Summit that I was invited there because we planted seeds years ago that then blossomed into a wonderful relationship that brought me out to Canada.
That's
That's
cool.
cool. Yes.
So, what's something you wish you'd known about cosplay before you started?
Ooh. Ugh. That's a loaded question. Gosh, I don't know. I guess because I've been trained as an actor and a singer that it has just theater's weird.
Mm.
Theater's weird, and cosplay isn't much off that. I did Civil War reenactment. Those boys are crazy. Um, I guess I wish I would have known that it was so flipping expensive. I think drugs would be cheaper, definitely. I guess because like I have the opportunity to create beautiful things, but a lot of people don't know that we're doing it out of pocket. That I
Mm.
mean, you've got Patreon and things like that, but I mean, I'm not that cool. So it comes out of a lot of work and hard work and love, and you just doing your what you do because you're crazy and you love it. So I guess that's one of the things I wish somebody had told me was okay before you get into this, just know that y'all going to be paying a lot for this. So but it's totally worth it in the end. I really enjoy what I do.
Well, that's what's important.
It's true.
Yeah. So, how do you integrate your cosplay into your daily life?
You know, I actually wear a lot of my pieces in normal human being life. I like to wear it. Like for instance, today I've got my Loki. This is hand forged brass,
Oh
and this is
yeah.
my Loki necklace. I have a shirt from my Undertaker from my World Cosplay Summit cosplay. It's a beautiful
Mhm.
pin tuck shirt. I use it all the time. Um, I guess besides wearing it, I'm always looking for something new to inspire me.
Mhm.
I work as a sewing technician, and so I get to meet a lot of different people. I come in contact with a lot of different machines, techniques. I mean, I'm always trying to integrate cosplay, maybe the reverse way, life into cosplay. I've met a lot of quilters. Where I come from, quilting is huge. And I've learned so much from quilters, just their tips and tricks and techniques, the way they press things, the way they create their mathematical process is amazing. And so
Mhm.
I'm always looking for something to inspire my costume to be better, I guess. Mhm,
Mhm. Oh, that makes sense.
mhm,
So, yeah, we've already talked about your favorite aspect of cosplay.
mhm.
Do you have a least favorite aspect? Something that
Uh, sh
frustrates you?
Shoes on that con floor. Oh my gosh. I can't tell you how many shoes I have sacrificed to the convention gods.
Mm.
Um, that floor is just horrible. It's horrible to stand on. I have inserts in my shoes. They
Mm.
just tear them up. I had my shout on from last year that my partner and I did. I made silk slippers, and that convention center hall just
Oh my.
tore them up. They lived like a couple of hours and then they were just toast. Concrete is rough on footwear. So
Mm.
that's my least favorite is because I'm always combating the look that the character has and how practical it actually needs to be to live to the next convention. Mhm,
It's true. If you're
mhm.
sort of hopping around with blisters on your feet, it doesn't really
Oh,
help your performance.
it's so true. It's so true. And just then I wish my shoes lived longer.
Mm. How do you cope with stress or obstacles in your pursuit of your art?
uh, a lot of monsters. I
Mm.
drink a lot of caffeine. Yeah, so that's the running joke with my coworkers is you better give her a monster before reality sets in. Um, and so all jokes aside, I do a lot of meditation.
Mhm.
There will be times where I'm stuck on this problem with this costume, and I just can't figure out where I need to go with it or how I'm going to get around it. And so I know this sounds really cliche, but in Sherlock Holmes, the last one in the BBC version,
Mhm.
where he kind of just sketches it out in his mind, I relate to that a lot because I'll sit there and meditate and I'll just construct something in my head and pull apart seams and then sew things back together. And it's a really interesting process where I don't actually have to physically do it, but I come in, I find my pitfalls before I actually run into them. So for me, sometimes it can be a very emotional, spiritual experience where I'm trying to figure out something without having to do it.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So on that, do you get block? Do you
Oh,
just like you have times when there's just no costume in you, kind of thing?
yeah, those times I just go to bed. It's just like, okay, peace, time for sleep. A lot of my last costume, Opera Celeste from Final Fantasy VI, I worked with a master teacher, and she has a 9:30 deadline. I'm not even kidding you. She works on a farm. She has a farm. She lives on it, and so 9:30 is her bedtime. And she just says my brain shuts off at 9:30. So every night at 9:30, we just had to shut down what we're going to do because I learned to sleep during that costume process because previous to that I would just like bust through it no matter what happened and no matter how tired I was going to do the thing. But then
Mhm.
I realized that sleep is an important process of your costuming, that
Mhm.
maybe if your wits were about you, you wouldn't make like so many stupid mistakes because you're half asleep. So yeah,
Makes sense. Yeah.
when I run into one of those ones, I just have to walk away from it. I definitely have to walk away from it because otherwise I just get ticked off.
Mm.
Mhm.
No, I mean that makes sense. I mean, if you're doing something that requires fine detail work, you
Mhm.
know, it's best to do it when you're rested.
Well, and
Yeah.
especially if you're doing beadwork or embroidery and you've been stuck in this little position and oh gosh, I cannot tell you the neck cramps I have gotten, hand cramps, back cramps, and it's just like, okay, we need to stretch, we need to go outside, we need to do something physical, maybe get some food in me.
Mm.
So, yeah, and I think the thing that is the hardest for me as an artist is I'm a perfectionist.
Mm.
Um, I can't tell you how often that will run me into the ground where I'm just like, it's not perfect. And I have many master teachers. I'm very grateful for that. One of my master teachers is Clark of Schaefer Studios. He actually built some of the original Iron Man suits, and I am very honored to be one of his pupils. And one day I was obsessing over this detail on Ed's automail,
Mhm.
was really struggling. And he finally stepped in. He was like, Gadget, did you know that Darth Vader's helmet is crooked? And I was like, what? He was like, no, really. The original Darth Vader helmet was crooked because it was made by a starving artist and they were doing the best that they could with the everything that they had in their arsenal. And they were telling a story. And it didn't matter that it wasn't perfect, it looked great. He was just like, nowadays they 3D print it, and there's always
Mm.
something a little bit off about it because it's exactly perfect. He was just like, nature isn't perfect. Humans aren't perfect. There's beauty in flaws. And so next time you run into this, just remember the most iconic helmet of all of film is crooked. So calm
Mm.
down. If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for you.
That's good advice.
Oh, right? He's really good at that.
So, do you have any advice to people starting out in cosplay?
Don't be afraid to try something new. I have to tell you, even as I guess a seasoned cosplayer, I'm constantly pushing my bounds. I'm constantly going to that horizon, pushing it further. Each of my costumes is a study of something. My last costume was a study of embroidery. Don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to fail because you learn more from failure. There's a song by Barry Manilow. My mom's a big fan. Anyways, and he says, I've learned more from failure than I've learned from success. I've learned from no thank you so much more than from yes. I've learned to be willing to lead with my chin. And if I was willing to lose, I can win. And so I really like that idea. So don't be afraid to crash and burn because you'll definitely have way more experience under your belt if you fail and make
Mm.
mistakes and aren't perfect than if you succeeded every single time because then you just didn't learn anything. You just did. So that would
That's
be
true.
that would be my hope that for new cosplayers that you went out there and were uncomfortable in doing something new. It's good for you.
That works. I think that makes sense. Yeah. All right, Gadget. So how can people learn more about you?
Well, I'm on Instagram. I've been trying really hard to be better at Instagram. I'm kind of a recluse. People, man, people. So I'm trying really hard to be better on Instagram. You can follow me at Gadget Gears Cosplay. And then you can also find me on Facebook with the same name. You can also find my website. I'm totally doing a website. It's called madewithloveandsarcasm.com. And it has my portfolio. It has my blog. You can ask me questions there. It's a great place that I hope is a place of learning. As I do projects, I like to kind of talk about my process. And so between those three, you can come along with me on a crazy adventure, and hopefully we can have some fun along the way.
That's cool. And we'll have links to all of this in the description of the video right below.
Yeah.
Check it out. So any upcoming appearances for you?
Oh, yes. I have one in my home state of Utah, Anime Bonsai. I will be going there just as a homage. It was my very first convention, but I will be doing some things that are secret. I also have another big project on the horizon. Unfortunately, I can't talk about it right now, but it's going to take me to new heights and new places, and I'm super excited to go along in the journey.
Well, that's cool. And I'm sure we all look forward to seeing everything that's coming up in the future.
I hope it's good.
So thank you, Gadget. Thank you, everybody, for watching. This has been Everyday Expertise. I'm Angela. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this interview. Be sure to share this video with friends and colleagues who may also enjoy this topic. Let us know your thoughts by leaving a comment below or check the description for our social media. See you next time.